crazy? I know Matthew's got to get out of here, but I will say this. When I was convinced to get involved and run, we had to look far and wide trying to figure out, all right, who made sense to help me with this campaign. Clearly, I'm not from Bartow County. I tried to be involved in the chamber and so on. And so it's challenging when you try and align yourself with someone that's going to have the same core values, going to have the same passion. Most of you know that I have a lot of drive. And it came down to Danae. And so we went to Danae Gamble, and I knew Matthew, I didn't know Danae. And we sat down, and she graciously said yes. And so when Matthew shared that he was going to run, he said, you know, I don't represent your area, but what do you think? I said, tell me when, and I'll put the billboard up. So when people say, are you supporting Matthew? Go to Cody J's and see if the billboard's not up there. Matthew, I can't think of a better person for me to be able to serve with down in the General Assembly than someone like you. You have a very strong passion to make sure we do the right thing. I don't think ethics would ever be an issue if you get involved in something, because I know if you did, your family and your wife would jerking on you. But that being said, thank you. So I'm going to start off with a little story. So I heard that, you know, this politician dies, right? Politician goes up into heaven, and they said, well, hold on a second. Hold on. You know, you can't just walk in here. What's the problem? Said, well, we don't get very many politicians up here in heaven. And so you got a decision to make. Okay, well, what's the decision? Well, you can decide whether you want to go to heaven or hell. He goes, oh, okay, well, how do we do this? And he said, well, I think you ought to spend a little time here in heaven, spend a little time in hell, and then make a decision. So okay. So take him around heaven. He said, well, this is nice. This is good. I like it. Yeah. Okay, well, it's time to go spend a week in hell. So we go down to hell, and the elevator opens, and he's like, well, this isn't what I thought. The golf course. The guy said, well, come on, let's go play a couple rounds of golf. All right. What are we doing when we get done playing? So, well, we got a nice dinner at the club. So go to the club, and they eat dinner and lobster and steak and fellowship. And I mean, he's like, well, this is nothing like I thought. And it's just a week of just enjoyment, and everything's great. And so time comes, he goes back up, and they said, so you make a decision. He said, you know, this is hard, but I think I'm going to choose hell. And he goes, really? He says, yeah, I think I am. And he's pretty nice. I was surprised. Said, okay, that's your choice. Back on the elevator. The elevator goes down, opens up, and he's like, oh, this isn't the same place. What's the matter? He said, well, there's garbage here. It stinks. There's no golf course. What in the world just happened? And the guy walks up and puts his arm and says, is there a problem? He says, yeah, I was just here not that long ago, and this was a gorgeous place, and now look at it. And he says, well, it's an election year. Of course, the election's over now. My point is, it's an election year if you have an election, right? So let me give you a little bit of a legislative update. Real quick, most of you know kind of my background. Some things have changed recently. Clearly, Lewis was making comments about my weight back in October, and I'm not sick. People have asked if maybe he's sick to serve, but even Casey asked that question. I went in, and at 52, you do the upper GI and the lower GI and every other GI you can, right? And he came out and he said, listen, pulse is 52, your blood pressure is 110/70. That's great. Your upper and lower GI, you're in great shape. But I've got a problem. I said, what's that, Dr. Cousins? He said, when's the last time you stepped on a scale? And I said, hey, I've got a 34 waist. And he said, I don't care what your waist is. When's the last time you stepped on a scale? I don't know. And I stepped on a scale and I weighed 232.5 pounds. I had no idea. And he said, the problem is you carry it well. You know, I used to be a wrestler. And he said, here's the challenge. The challenge is you're 52. When you're 72, you're going to wish you at 52 would have changed your life. So I went home and talked to my wife, and I said, I need about 48 hours to pray about what I'm going to have to do radically. And during that time of reflection, I realized there were 3 areas of my life that needed to radically change. 1, my health. 2, my finances. And 3, my investment in what I'm going to do for the future. Clearly the health piece, we got after it. On the financial piece, I started selling various things and investing in things that's going to give a return. That ticks some people off, but it is what it is. And we also have some business opportunities we're going into. And the other is I just stopped investing in everything. Started resigning from boards and said, if I'm not going to be in something where you can really influence it, where God's have you where you're at, then I don't need my name associated with just sitting on some board. Again, some people don't understand that, but that's kind of where I'm at. So that should dispel a lot of the rumors of, okay, why is he resigning from this? He's sick. No, I'm telling you, I'm pretty healthy. At the Capitol, they said he's back to his fighting weight. All right, so what's hot right now? Well, since I started working on it, it's the adoption bill. If you haven't seen the video that I put out there from the floor, was it the bill I wanted? No. The original bill had a faith piece component in it. And did I take some heat for that? Absolutely. But what I said from the floor is this. We're in a crisis right now in the state of Georgia. The state of Georgia has a lot of opportunities right now. Economically, Matthew talked about it. I mean, we are in a good place as a state. But with success comes challenges. We've got a lot of people moving here. We've got a lot of families. We've got a lot of displaced kids and so on. And we're sitting in this room right now where it's nice and every one of us have clothes on our back and shoes on our feet. And yet there are kids outside these walls right now that don't have the same thing. There are kids that do not have a parent at home. I mean, we can just go on and on and on. So for us to do nothing is not an option. So yes, I would have liked to seen a different bill, but many of you know Faith. Both our kids are newborn adoptions. When we adopted Faith and brought her mother into our home from a crisis pregnancy center out of Tennessee, the father was from Pakistan. He had abandoned her mother when she was 4 or 5 months old. 4 or 5 months pregnant. We went through pure you-know-what trying to locate this guy because of the laws that were on the books, running stuff in Pakistan and running to here and so on. And this put this mother through tremendous pain trying to figure out, all right, do I give the child up or do I abort? Because putting the child into DFACS and foster care was not an option because she had been through that and molested many, many times when she was young. Once the baby was born, once they brought Faith out, as I said on the video, and handed that sweet little baby to us, Elise didn't want to come back home with us and have to face that. She wanted to terminate her rights and move on with her life, but in the state of Georgia, it took 10 days. So we had to put her into a hotel. This bill addressed 2 of those issues. So my point of it is, why am I a fan of the bill as it is because we're taking steps to do the right thing. Is there a faith component coming? Oh, yes. Was there an agreement that we would be allowed to bring a faith piece component separate? Yes. So, adoption bill. Number 2, part of our success in the state of Georgia means people are coming here, goods are coming here. I will tell you, as much as we hear about Amazon, as much as we hear about Apple and all the other big companies, right? There's a bazillion other companies that aren't that big that are interested in Georgia too. You know what their biggest concern right now is? Transportation. Ladies and gentlemen, you can educate somebody, but you can't make sure you can get your goods here and there and people get here and there. When I get on in the morning to go down to the Capitol, if I hit 20 over here and in 75 at 6 o'clock, it's a game. It's a crapshoot. It is going to be at least an hour and a half and sometimes 2 hours to pull in the parking deck. So if I have an 8 o'clock meeting, I'm leaving at 5:40 to 5:30. That's only growing. Okay? Now, if I leave at midnight, right, I could be down there in 50 minutes to an hour. So the question is, well, is the flyover going to give you relief? You know, I got a personal opinion. I would just say, I don't know, the first person that's putting their makeup on and they crash, or the first person that has a flat tire on that flyover, I'm not sure how we're going to get everybody off of it unless we just push them off the side or whatever, but we'll deal with that when we get to it. Transportation is a big concern to companies looking at Georgia. They love the landscape. They're favorable to the tax situation. The religious freedom bill, I would tell you, it's not as big an issue as we make it out to be, meaning that companies aren't not coming here because of religious freedom. I know that because I spent the summer traveling with some of these big companies. I went to Facebook, I went to Apple, I went to Google. It's a distraction, and that's why it's a trouble to it. We've got to deal with this issue somehow, but it's not preventing companies from coming. I sat down with two CEOs of very large corporations here in the state of Georgia. So tell me why you're against religious freedom. So they told me all the things. I said, would it surprise you that the current bill is exactly the same as the federal bill? It's not. It is. It's not. I said, okay. So what does the current bill say? That's what I got. I said, it is exactly the federal bill. The bills in the past weren't. This bill is. Just help me understand why you would think that a federal prisoner would have more rights than your employees. So they shouldn't. So we kind of went through those. Both of those CEOs, Fortune 500, big companies, said, well, I don't have a problem supporting that bill. So we can publicly say that? And he said, the optics. My point is that's not what are preventing companies from coming. It's transportation. We better deal with it. We better get bold about dealing with it. Because if not, it's going to be our natural mountains and our natural ocean. And it's going to change some things. And it's on the conversation piece. The one that's near and dear to my heart, I have to continue to chuckle because I just had a conversation with a senior person down at the Capitol, and I said, I still don't understand why I cannot get more funding for cyber and cyber terrorism. And the answer was, Senator, do you really think this is going to be a discussion in 3 or 4 years? To which I said, are you freaking kidding me? It's only going to become more and more relevant. Ladies and gentlemen, companies like Delta, Home Depot, and Allstate are averaging between 1.5 and 3 million hits per day. Senior legal counsel at Google told me, Kim Walker said, I said, what keeps you up at night? He said, the fact that my colleagues, third-party vendors, pretty much everybody, don't realize it's not if, it's when we get hit, and then how big is it? Name the company, Uber, Home Depot, Target, Homeland Security. I mean, on and on. We cannot completely stop this 100%. So right now, cyber-related issues. The state of Georgia, it is not illegal for me to hack your computer. We're one of 3 states, Alaska and Virginia. Now, I've got some people on Facebook who want to take me to task on it, and I chuckle at that because I'm like, okay, so come in my house and see what I do to you. If I come home, you're sitting on my couch, I suggest you already know an exit strategy, because if you don't exit by the time I get a hold of my 45, it's not going to be an issue. Guys in the room, your wife comes out of Publix, if you shop at Publix or Walmart, and there's a guy sitting in the passenger seat of her car. How do you feel about that? Particularly if you don't know who it is. You okay with that? So why would be okay with someone accessing your computer that's unauthorized? So when I get these cockamamie emails or somebody posting on a Facebook, oh, so you want to make it illegal that on my wife's computer? Last time I checked, a husband and wife probably shared their passwords. Last time I checked, that makes it authorized. But unauthorized access to a computer is one of the challenges we have right now with the Attorney General, regardless of what you think of the Attorney General, trying to prosecute the situation in Kennesaw that happened. Because of a law we don't have. We have antiquated laws. It's not going to take the average citizen to do jack except to give you some coverage. And it's needed. If it wasn't needed, you wouldn't have it in all the other states. Where is it? It will be heard on Wednesday. It should move pretty quickly. We had some concerns between the Attorney General of what they wanted, because they haven't crafted the first one, and big corporations that do patches and updates. And they were interpreting, their attorneys were interpreting as, okay, what happens to an automated patch? And I'm like, last time I checked, you checked the little box at the bottom and allowed updates to come in. So we had to go through and clarify some of that, but the bill should move.
What's the bill number, please?
That one's 315, SB 315. Here's one that's getting a lot of attention, right? So voter machines. Scott Turner, I happen to be his senator, over in Cherokee County, worked on this tirelessly over the summer. He had a bill, HB 680. I took a look at the bill. He talked to me about it. In the state of Georgia, it's needed. People said, why is it needed? Because they had a convention out in Vegas, like they always do. You know, I'm in the software business as well. They line up all these computers, all these voting machines. Ours are one of them, in the state of Georgia. Took less than 15 minutes to hack it.
Wow.
No, we weren't the worst. That's good news.
Oh, really?
So that gives you any consolation, right? But Scott went to work with, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of the organization, voter, no, it's,
True the Vote?
What is it?
True the Vote?
Identity, voter identity, yeah, anyway, we went to work with them. They came up with a bill. There was some concern on whether or not the bill was going to move through the House. And what I said before, we're in an election year. There's a lot of personalities down there in both chambers at senior level. And sometimes it's hard for Scott to move stuff. I looked at the bill. And the bones of that bill are good. So we made some changes. I brought Scott in. I brought in the lobbyists that had the issue, because that's what I do. I just bring everybody in. We're not going to play this game of on the sidelines and you hijack it. I'll bring everybody into the room. We're going to have a discussion about it. We're going to decide whether or not we move forward. And we got consensus on what we're going to do. The bill should be ready on Monday to move forward. Okay. Pretty confident it's coming out of the Senate. What happens in the House, I'm not sure. But what I did tell Scott was this, and I think this is important. Matthew would attest to this. I don't really care if a statute is built in my name. Really, to me, what's important to me is the fact that I have kids that become very productive parts of society. The fact that when I go to bed at night, hopefully, I can sleep well. And the reality of it is, if I die tomorrow, maybe I'll get 2 or 3 people to show up to carry my casket. So I've given Scott, I was on Lawmakers, and they said, hey, you've got this bill, it's voter machines. And I said, no, hold on a second. I think it's important to give credit where credit's due. Representative Turner over in the House is one that actually spent the time drafting this bill. I happen to be the guy that's introducing it in the Senate. I go, well, it's a Senate bill. I said, it is. But the reality is too many people take credit for stuff that they really didn't have to do. And I didn't really actually do this. And when we sit down at the Capitol and say we don't have pride of authorship, that's BS. By nature, the people that serve an elected officer have pride of authorship, they wouldn't do it. So if we're able to get this bill passed, it's important for us to say to a Scott Turner, thank you for actually spending the time and the effort to do it. It's a big, important bill. Is it going to cost a lot of money? Depends. You get a $20 billion budget, and we're going to spend $35 to $40 million to protect Democrat, Republican, Independent, anybody else that votes right to vote and cast their vote. I think it's important. What's in the bill? Here's what's in the bill. Currently, right now, if you go up to vote, there is no audit trail for it. Remember we were talking about hacking? Would it surprise you if I told you one of the 5th largest hospitals in the state of Georgia, I got a phone call, and for 48 hours, their emergency room was hacked and they couldn't get access to the records? Make you nervous? You think somebody can hack into voter machines?
Yeah.
Probably. They could probably have, maybe. I don't know. Not trying to be a conspiracist. It's real. I can't go into all this no more than anybody else that happens to have a security clearance, but I'm telling you guys, security is real. So if we do nothing, then that means we have failed you as elected officials. You sent us down there as a republic to be able to take care of the things that we need to do that we identify. What this bill would say is this: you'll have 2 options. You'll walk up, you'll have a touch screen, your ADA, or you just want a touch screen and you cast your vote. It's not calculated yet. Cast your vote. You push a button, it will print out a paper ballot. That paper ballot then will be scanned into a machine that will tabulate that, and then we'll have an audit. Or you can come over, and what most people will do is fill out a paper ballot. You'll walk over to the same machine, you'll feed it in, and that will tabulate it. Okay? So you will have paper ballots, and we'll have an audit in the back. And if it's not, when they spot check these and it's not 90% accurate, it triggers a situation we need to look at. We don't have that right now. Pretty simple. Many other states have already gone to this. So when you hear all this nonsense out there about these machines, it's simplifying the process, but it's getting us audit privileges, and it's also going to actually have a paper trail. Okay? What's warm? Distracted driving. I've taken some people to task on distracted driving. I was in the insurance business until I sold all my insurance agencies, because about a year ago, a group of people that probably were out of their mind wanted me to become the next insurance commissioner, and they put a lot of money behind it and said, hey, you can get, anyway, we decided that wasn't the right thing to do. So I know a little bit about insurance, but here's the deal. If we're going to institute another law for the people of Georgia to tackle distracted driving because it's going to reduce accidents and or deaths, then let's be serious about it. And that's what I've said. Here's the deal. So I'm on my cell phone driving down the road with one hand, right, and I'm talking on the wheel, and I'm talking to Steve because Steve's mad because I did something wrong. So I'm listening, yes, Commissioner, yes, yes. Okay, and I look over, and I got some chick with her flipped up, and she's putting her makeup on, driving with her niece.
Oh, yeah.
And then the guy over here is a business guy that's running late for his meeting. He's got his Starbucks in one hand, and he's driving his elbow, and he's eating his whatever. And then I got the tractor trailer guy over here is weaving over in my cotton picking lane, right? He's all over the road. I can't see what he's doing, but I can promise you he's doing something that's distracting. Maybe he's fiddling around with his radio. Come on, guys. I mean, seriously? And you know, my passion is, why the heck are people smoking in cars? A lit fire in a car? Well, there you go. So for the libertarian people that really hate that bill, you guys should really have a problem with the whole bill. That's how I feel. Because, I mean, if we're worried about smoking in a car with a kid present, which is taking away their rights, you ought to be more worried, just as worried about taking away the right for somebody to be able to communicate. Or you to have your hot coffee, or maybe your biscuit, or whatever it is. There's a lot of distracted driving, and when you drive as much as a lot of us in here, you see it. Just saying, that's the reason I have a challenge with that bill. But it's warm. I don't know that it's really going to move. Fantasy sports, the one I love to keep fighting, right? So fantasy sports it's probably got a warm chance of moving this year. Because casinos aren't. I've put a dagger in that heart, but fantasy sports might. I'll keep fighting it. I would just tell you it's kind of warm. Rural Georgia's still pretty hot. What we're trying to do for rural Georgia. We're not technically rural Georgia, but kind of affects us a little bit, Steve. When you get into rural areas, and right now they're losing their hospitals, companies are not interested in coming somewhere they can't get health care. I don't know what the answer to it is, but that's something that they're trying to work on. And broadband's the other issue. The fact that some of these places, these kids, they can't do their homework online. They can't, I mean, it's an issue. It's an issue on Highway 20 where I live, but it's an issue. And so I think it's between warm and hot. We're going to have to do something. Otherwise, we're going to continue to have two Georgias, and we can't grow. That's going to become a boundary. The Fire Safety Consolidation Act, I'm going to tell you, that thing will probably roar through here. You talk to Craig Millsaps and the other people that are involved in fire safety, they want to see this separation from the insurance commissioner's office. If you talk to leadership, they want to see a separation of it. Alberts has got the bill. I'll be shocked if the bill doesn't move through. In one hand, I said, now we're creating another department. The other hand, they say there's consolidation. I don't know, but it's probably going to move. Religious freedom. Religious freedom, I want to say, is probably lukewarm. I know some things I can't talk about that's going to become public with this. It's going to become a communicated topic here real soon, right? There's a video that's done that spells it out real well, why the case for it. I certainly have been a big supporter of it. I just don't think with the governor making a statement that he said that I'm not interested in really seeing anything this year is going to be enough to allow it to go on through. I don't know, but I would call it lukewarm right now. Somebody's going to have to deal with it though in the next governorship, because there's a lot of promises that were made that it could happen. And again, the current bill just mirrors the federal bill. Taxes. Taxes are probably lukewarm right now, which doesn't thrill me. We've been working on trying to reduce the state income tax. And as I've said before, you know, I guess once I got elected, I become part of the problem. And that is, it's very difficult to pry money away from the government, because the government seems to think, and so do my colleagues, that we make money. We don't make money, we take money and redistribute it. But it's hard to pry money out of it. You know, it's kind of like a salesperson. You take a salesperson and try and take something away to incentivize them to behave better, and they think that you've ended their job. And the reality is all you're trying to do is help them to do better, which is the same way down at the Capitol. Our budget continues to grow as we bring in more and more revenue, and we find a way to spend it instead of give it back. I think it's probably got a lukewarm chance of us being able to reduce it. Tax credits. The tax credits are being reviewed across the board. Most of you know where I feel on tax credits. I'm not anti-tax credits if it truly is about growing a sector of the business. But I'm not in favor of giving Delta a tax credit in their fuel, because this year they lost money because of what happened down at the airport, when last year they made up bazillions of dollars, right? No, you should not pick one or the other. But when we do something to be able to spur economic growth, I tend to favor that, right? But it's being reviewed right now across the board, because we get a little liberal with giving out your tax money with some of these. Tax exemptions. I know that's a question that I'm surprised Matthew didn't get hit with it, and I told him if he did, he said, so he's not elected yet. Let the guys already elected deal with it. We're dealing with it on a state level as well as I know locally. So tax exemptions, right? So there's some bills that are floating through on veterans, giving them some tax exemption status, especially their spouses and things like that. Probably a good chance they may move through. Not as many of them that are sitting out there. What's cold is this. Marijuana is a dead issue. Legalizing marijuana in the state of Georgia is a dead issue. So if you're hearing it's going to happen, I would just tell you you're listening to the wrong radio program. It's not going to happen. The monument issue. Whatever knucklehead seems to think that and I'm sorry, local, but the local should be able to make the decision whether we're taking down some monuments or there, it's not going to happen. I can promise you I will fight it as much as I fought the casinos. We opened Pandora's box with doing that, and the next thing you know, the crosses are coming off at churches in public area. And people go, oh no, we can't do that. Watch. We have a pretty good history in government. If you let us in, we're going to keep going. Right? It's already happened in other states.
That's right.
And then casino, I already talked about. Casino issue is, well, that's going to be an oxymoron a little bit when I say, unless they go back on the word, not if that ever happens, right? But the good news is the Gulch is now being developed. They're thinking about being developed for something else. Those are really the issues of what's happening down at the Capitol. I would say that because it's an election year, you all know it's an election year, we're going to be electing a new governor, a new lieutenant governor, a new secretary of state, a new insurance commissioner, right? You're going to see a whole lot of horse trading and stuff that's going on. And that's going to come to light, I think, in the next 3-4 weeks. So I don't know where we're at in time. Stop and go on, but
Take 2 questions.
property tax, I'll go ahead and just address it right now. Property tax locally. Clearly, I had 2 hearings here, public town hall meetings, whatever you want to call it, to be able to talk about and allow seniors to be able to express their concerns and see if something can be done. I've shared on a regular basis where that's at. I said, listen, any bill is going to have to start in the House because it's financial. It's just the way it is constitutionally. You can't do anything. And the other part of that is there need to be an agreement, because we're just not going to get divided and tear this community apart, between the schools, commissioner's office, and all the elected officials of what we're going to do. But what I can tell you, there is no consensus to go to 100%. Not even in. So for some of you that might think it's all or none, I would tell you the problem is it's just going to be none. And it's not me saying it. I'm just telling you. I'm being your voice telling you. I've been in the meetings. The delegation's already met our first meeting. We had a meeting on a couple of issues that posted in the paper that you're going to see coming up that have to do with the museum and so on. So I don't really want to dwell on that too much in case maybe you don't want it too public. But we met on that. On the agenda that was set by the chairman of the delegation, which is Christy Coomer, property tax, senior tax exemption was not on that agenda. So I would share with you, and it's not a surprise because we asked him, "This is what you want us to say?" And he said, "Yes." If you want to see it on the agenda for the next meeting, go talk to him. That's the process. And so for some of you, if you want to send me emails and say that I've killed it or what, I'm not killing it. I'm trying to make this clear. That's the process. Okay. Now I'll take questions. Yes, sir.
Okay, on that issue there, it's my understanding that if we do a straw poll on the ballot, and that of course has to, on the Republican side, has to get approved by the county group, and if they do approve that, and I also understand that the Democrats are doing the same question and getting that approved by their organization. Because I think the issue had come up before to the legislative delegation, but we had a couple of people, and I believe one of them is still on there, that are against that. And the straw poll basically says, you know, are you in favor, yes or no? And leaving it up to the legislative delegation to come up with a plan for that, you know, with input from the community. And I don't think everyone that supports that to have a reduction in the school tax. But if you've ever gone to a school board meeting where the issue has come up, you have people that are living on Social Security of $1,100, and that's all they're getting, and then their taxes. And then there are people that are better off financially, that really are not looking for a reduction. I'm speaking for myself now, not for the whole group.
Okay. I hear all that, right? What I'm saying is this. If you want to see this move forward, there's a process. I can't change the process. I got my brains beat out last time because people said, you aren't doing it. I can't make it happen. What's gotta happen is you've gotta have your legislative delegation support it. It has to start on the House. It's gonna be Chris Coomer, it's gonna be Paul, it's gonna be Trey. Okay, one of them's gotta be willing to do that. Okay, if we vote it out, because then we'll take a vote, right? Then it's gonna go to local, it's gonna be a local bill down at the Capitol. What happens with local bills? I'm just gonna tell you how it is. The local bill is introduced, it's gonna pass. If we draft it, it's gonna pass because they say it's local and we support it. Then it's gonna come to the constitutional amendment for you guys to vote in the community. So all of the discussion that we keep saying about, we have some people that are living up, I get that. I'm not trying to be insensitive to that, but I'm saying, we just keep, this is a lot like religious freedom. We just keep talking about it. Let's deal with it one way or another. And if you want to deal with it, there's a process. So every one of you need to go talk to Chris Coomer if you're interested in that and have him put it on for an agenda item. If it's not, there's nothing else for to talk about.
However, if we do, if the straw poll.
I guess I didn't articulate very well.
If the straw poll gets on there and it's supported by the community, because I understand there are a couple of members on the legislative delegation that are not in favor of that, and that's fine. But if you have a majority coming in from your voters, it kind of puts a little bit of pressure on that legislative delegation to do something.
I don't want to get crossways with you. I would say that there are plenty of times that an elected official, if you get your voters that give you a 65%, we want something done, I've seen them do other things. I'm telling you the process, because a straw poll is a straw poll, and I can in some way alter a straw poll. Doesn't matter your straw poll. Your straw poll is not going to get you a constitutional amendment to vote on. If you want to do it, I'll try and articulate a little better. Christian Coomer, the chairman of the delegation. Nothing is discussed or put on the agenda unless he wants it on there.
Okay, so what you're saying, any straw poll is might as well just forget it.
Can I interject? He's saying straw poll, he means having it put on the ballot primary.
On the primary
Right, so
ballot.
it's different.
There's
Which-
different than a straw poll.
Right.
Which, if I get this right, if you want something done now, go to Christian Coomer, speak to him now, get it done now. If it doesn't happen this legislative session, your ballot on the primary, which will be on May 22nd, is a nice backup plan
Well,
Right.
for next legislative
Well
session.
articulated. Thank you, sir.
Well, yeah, I understand that. You
Is there
know.
any other questions before?
On the
we-
religious-
I'll come back to this. I'll come back
I have a
to
second
it.
question.
Is it still part of this?
No.
Okay.
All right, there's a bill, and I'm not sure who introduced it, to have a constitutional amendment to have English as the official
Josh
language in
McKinnon.
Georgia. What's the status of that?
He just dropped the bill. So, I mean, when you ask the status, it was crafted, people signed on to it, dropped it, it's been dropped, it hasn't moved yet, it's a little early. So the status is, it's moving, but it hasn't had a chance to really move yet.
Is it in any committee
Oh,
or?
it's been assigned to the committee, I don't know where it's at yet. Hold on a second, yes, sir.
As far as, you're talking about talking to the CEOs or whoever on these, including Google, liberal companies like that, if they're kind of sort of lukewarm with it, they ain't got a problem, so you think it'll get done? And second part, we've been seeing stuff like on Amazon, when people do bring their companies here, they kind of bring their own people, a lot of it, so I don't know how that's helping a lot of Georgians that's been struggling all these years.
Okay,
So is that going on?
I think it's a two-part question. The
Yeah.
first, I think I tried to address before, and that is, we can't force something to get done. Okay, will religious freedom come up? Yes. it's about to hit the media to try and articulate it, why it's necessary. But if your governor decides it's not going to happen, they have the veto power. We've seen that before. So the fact that you get it all the way through General Assembly, it gets vetoed, did nothing to get it passed. Okay. So my gut says it's not going to pass. When it comes to the big companies, I will tell you this. If Amazon does bring 50,000 jobs to Georgia, well, will they bring some? Yeah, every company brings some of their senior people, right? But is there going to be opportunity for us here? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not going to, I will just tell you, we don't have a site that will handle Amazon up here. There's 3 sites in the state of Georgia, and none of them are in Bartow County. Will we benefit from that? Sure. They're going to need a whole bunch of people. In fact, if you've got a company right now and you're not taking care of your employees, I'd be worried, because a company like that's going to be able to take care of them. And I would say Amazon is, in my opinion, Apple's just as good of a pickup. Apple's got $212 billion in cash. They're sitting on the sidelines. They're willing to pay a big tax bill to bring that back over, and we are one of the sites people look at that. But there are many other companies that don't have that same name that are 5,000 to 8,000 jobs that are really good jobs too. We're in a good position as a state, but we better deal with our transportation guys. Yes.
Senator,
I'm
thank
sorry,
you.
hold on.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yes.
What's the status of constitutional carry?
That's not even really being discussed at this very moment in the Capitol. Just saying. Yes.
Senator, thank you for your efforts on the anti-hacking legislation.
We're in friends, so it's Bruce.
Bruce, Bruce, thank you for your efforts on the anti-hacking legislation, and I would hope with your software background, you're sharing with your fellow legislators, whether it's the voting machines being hacked, whether it's companies' servers being hacked. I know with our company's servers on a daily basis, from China, from Russia, from the old Yugoslavia, Bulgaria, we have so many hack attacks that try. It is a continual layer after layer after layer that we have to protect. So thank you for your efforts there, and definitely let's keep pushing that whole cybersecurity, what's happening here in Georgia.
So that is one big industry that the state of Georgia is way ahead of everybody else. I can't get into the real details of it, but I will tell you this. We invested some money in this. There's right now the memo that I got this morning. There's 200,000 jobs in the country. They're unfilled when it comes to cyber. I'm going to talk about this over in Cherokee County at their breakfast soon. This is real as of today. If you're in high school in proximity of Chattahoochee Tech, happen to be a big Ron Nickel, you can dual enroll with Chattahoochee Tech as a junior in high school through the programs that we already have in our state. Graduate high school with a certification in cyber simultaneously from Chattahoochee Tech. And if you want to send me an email, I will give you a list. You can immediately get hired between 60 and 80,000 bucks. You have no debt. Zero debt. It's the story I'm trying to get out, and it's just hard. And there's zero unemployment in this industry. You don't have to be the chief information security officer making 150 to hire. There are analysts. There's malware analysts right now. They'll pay you 65 to 70 grand. In a 2-year certification, you can do that. You can dual enrollment. You're in school. So it's a huge sector for the millennials, and I'm like, man, I wish I was a millennial, right? But to your point, yes, it's a big deal. Our challenge is, for some of you in the room that are 50 and older like I am, we haven't taken this as serious as it is. I could promise you I could put USB sticks on everyone here with my logo on it and say, guys, just a gift from me. It's empty, and every one of you to go home, put it in your computer, and say, well, congratulations, it's infected you. That's baseline. It should be zero trust, guys. When you see one laying out here, instead of plugging your computer, going, I wonder who dropped this, zero trust. And that's the basic. When you take free Wi-Fi over at Starbucks, it's not free, it's costing somebody something, and that was very unsecure. That's why it says it's unsecure. When you go to the airport, you're going to have to get to a point where you're not trusting everything that's free that's out there, or you're going to wind up like I was when I got my identity stolen. And I'm still dealing with that 3 years later, and I know how to get a hold of people and get it off. You get it off, and it shows back. You get it off, you can't take it away. when that company, and that is something I'm working on, it's probably a long play. It ticks me off when somebody's identity can be stolen and you get false accounts set up and they get sent to collections. In today's world, that should not be able to happen. So what happens when Amazon brings their 20,000 people here and Louis, you're in your truck with your wife and your 20 kids, your few kids. Take a shot, right? Since I'm a smaller guy.
21's on the way.
Oh, 21's on the way. That's right. And you pull up to, I don't know, the apartment complex, right? And you're already pre-approved, and you walk in to sign your papers, and they say, okay, so we got a 17-bedroom house, a 3-bedroom apartment for you, and oh, by the way, we got a little problem. And you go, well, what's the problem? So we ran your credit, and you got a credit score of 555, and you're gonna go like, there's no way I have 555. Well, actually, we do. You want to tell me why you didn't pay Comcast in Chicago and the Macy's card? But what are you gonna do? Can you fix that today? Can you fix it tomorrow or the next day? You're completely hosed. That is a real problem happening, ladies and gentlemen. So we're gonna have to deal with it. Cyber is a big issue.
I want to thank you myself. I really appreciate the passionate thing on the statutes. It's very near and dear to my brother's heart. And I want to thank you. That sounds like you're pretty on target on it. I know you do see a little bit on the media talking about, like you said, in the Atlanta area, they want to take. But just want to thank you.
There's a lot of stuff that happened in Atlanta that just it's hard for us to understand.
But I want to thank you.
Yep, sure. It's my pleasure, sir.
Bruce, I'll
Yes,
say
sir.
one thing about broadband. There is a lot of our citizens that live outside in the edges of Bartow County, in the rural areas, like up in Rival, like around Taylorsville, that is not getting broadband. But yet Comcast, AT&T, Verizon, all these companies operate not like Georgia Power with a microscope on them. They just go in the areas that's very profitable. And yet they should, and my opinion is, Lewis lives, there's 4 houses in a link that's not even connected his way, that because it's not profitable for them to run, yet they're probably making thousands of dollars on these other people. Somehow we need to take a look at making them, they are a monopoly, but yet they've got all the benefits, but they're not suffering any pain.
When I was looking at my phone, Commissioner, is this Monday morning at 1 o'clock, I have a meeting with AT&T Verizon on this issue.
And I know they've got more lobbyists down there than everybody, but.
You tell AT&T to strengthen the wireless signal in Adairsville?
You want to get your bill right too? But you're right. I live on Highway 20 between Canton and Cartersville, and it's not necessarily rural, but I have the same thing. It's like, come on, guys.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Off of that, we read that AT&T and Georgia Power are working on something to run it through the power lines. Do you know anything about that?
That is one proposal. That's kind of a long play. The big play right now they're working on is small cell. So small cell is a very small device, right? Right now the cell towers go out much further. The problem is no one wants a cell tower in their area. Well, not no one, but many people don't want a cell tower in their area, right? So to be able to really close up this gap, you'd have to put more cell towers up. That's just not going to happen, right? So the small cell are these small little devices that are really somewhere in the 200 to 400 yard, right? And so they would put them at strategic places down the road and in areas where you can't even really tell. In some cases, areas that are architecturally sound, these devices look like a little tree. And so that's the big push right now. The challenge with that from AT&T standpoint is they need to be able to have, and this is a challenge, I know, they need to have, before they invest, the ability to be able to do that and not get blocked by local areas. And that's
And as long as home rule is considered, we're fine with that. We don't want the utility companies to be able to go willy-nilly anywhere just because they, the legislature says they can now do it.
And that's the happy dance.
That should be up to the individual community's home rule, and so we could work things out to cover all the parts.
So that's the discussion going, and it's a big discussion going quickly. Yes, sir.
So building on that, and with all the future growth that you and Commissioner Taylor are fostering in Bartow County, What about this discussion of fiber and Google Fiber and having somebody go ahead and start bringing a fiber backbone in through the county, not in the rural parts necessarily, but into the core parts?
I don't think AT&T is gonna bring Google Fiber in.
Google Comcast can bring it if they want, but Google, is there a conversation with people like Google?
So there is discussion about
You guys
fiber.
have got a Senate bill where GDOT runs it up the interstates. All the interstates will have the fiber.
Okay.
And then the laterals will have to be up to the locals, right? Is that?
So there is five, AT&T actually has fiber, it's not good. And they're deploying it kind of the way we just had a discussion, you know, whether it's profitable or not, right? But the Senate bill you're talking about has probably pretty good legs to do that. Will that be immediate? We're a government. Are you kidding me? By the time we get something deployed, we're moved on to the next thing, and we got to go back and amend what we just passed because we get. So I know it's faster in the federal government than the state. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
seriously. Congressman Latterman does a good job. I'm just busting your chops. But yes, there's a lot of attention around it. I will tell you that in spite of the fights that's going on between the people running for governor and possibly lieutenant governor, the rest of us at least understand, and we're trying to make sure that we don't become a state that had a great opportunity and we killed that because we won't want to do anything. It's going to be painful though. It's shifting money out of certain, anytime you, again, we don't make money, but we reappropriate it or we distribute it. But when we take money out of some place that we put that, to move it over to what we think, we're elected, should be an investment in it, the person over here didn't want to give it up. Regardless of whether or not that was a zero-based budget or should have been, and you go, you really didn't need that kind of money. And we've got to get to a mindset where we're evaluating all the money that is appropriated, the various programs and so on, to see, is that even relevant? And does it need that much money? And can we move some of that money over somewhere else to do it versus trying to raise taxes or pull in more money to be able to do it? Because that's the big argument all the time. Can we afford it? Well, you got a $2.3 billion surplus. Yeah, I think we can afford it. But not everybody has that same sentiment. Yes, sir.
And I would just add that, you know, everything you've said, because of, you know, Bruce, and to some credit to the governor, in the past few legislatures, we are the #1 state to do business by many people's standards, in what is now the #1 country to do business. We just heard that in Davos. So the opportunities that lie ahead over the next 10 to 15, 20 years are just incredible.
I'm surprised nobody brought this up. I'll go ahead and throw this out because it's a good place to land. State taking over the airport. You guys probably don't give a rip because you're in Bartow County. The city of Atlanta hates it. Here's what I would, change it. Here's the challenge. City of Atlanta and or the airport have continuously had corruption, at least suggested corruption has gone on. And I would say that, and we had this discussion recently, they said, well, there's really no proof there. I said, well, there's been a couple people go to jail. I mean, if there wasn't proof, man, they were sentenced to terms unfairly. At some point, we've got to address that. If it's the city of Atlanta that controls the airport, there needs to be some oversight of some kind. And why? Because that is a major consideration for corporations coming here. And I have said this before, I know that it's a small percentage of everything when you have a poor experience, but I fly a lot. This week, twice I was in Chicago, up and back, right? And it's not a complaint, but I'm telling you, when you come into areas like San Diego, Salt Lake, and others, and you have someone that's friendly, and they greet you, and they're not obnoxious to people going through security, it sure changes your view of the place that you're visiting.
Exactly.
And on a regular basis, I go to the Atlanta airport, and it's like, really? And so,
Yeah, we're the South.
I mean, I'll challenge people sometimes. I go, really? Do you understand that a company is coming here? It's just a different mentality. That mentality needs to change. So, anything
And you
else?
suppose it being taken by the state will change the mentality?
What's that?
Do you suppose that being taken over by the state would change the mentality of the people that
Get
work
rid of the
there?
corruption.
I don't know, because you know our history of it, but I think that if you provided some oversight into it, with the right people in oversight and some inspections, When I say inspection saying, hey, my companies, they're paid very, very well, but they're held accountable. In fact, our call center is about to have a pretty good sized monitor up, where we're gonna start monitoring how long you were on the call and how many calls you made inbound and outbound. Not because our sales are down, our sales are way up. Because I'm trying to decide whether it's time to add another person, or maybe we reduce a person, or maybe we're just right where we're at, right? Accountability is not a bad thing. The problem is a lot of entities like that have zero, they don't have any accountability. I have a picture of somebody who was actually in security asleep in a chair.
Oh, yeah.
You walk, surprising and locked up for taking a picture of them, but I'm like, really? Really? That's supposed to make people feel comfortable and secure?
On the other hand, if they're asleep, they're probably not stealing electronics. out of
That's
the-
true. I'm not sure this individual could electronically hack anything, but one last question. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for allowing me to serve. I do appreciate it. Again, Matthew talked about kind of the boundaries. Chuck and I have this kind of agreement. I'm kind of like the Bartow County Senator. If you need something, regardless of where you live, just reach out to me. I'll touch base with Chuck, but I usually just take care of it and send him a message.
Okay.